Okay, I am going to make a start because, as many of you know, my saying is, "If you snooze, you lose," and we have a lot to get through today. So we're going to start with a quiz, and I'd like you to put your answers in the chat box, please. So the first question is, how many business school participants have we come into contact with in 2025? So I appreciate this is a guesstimate. It's to the nearest 100. What do you think? So the question is, how many business school participants have we come into contact with in so far in 2025? Oh my gosh, I love you, Alexander. If only that was the case. So that's a bit of
It's
a
true for
clue.
it's true for us, Lorraine. I thought it'd be similar for you.
Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Okay, so I will tell you the answer. You're all very optimistic, which is lovely. It's a bit skewed because we do most of our work at the beginning of the academic year. So in 2025, so far, we've met 670 people, and that's over 123 workshops. But if we do for the academic year so far, we have actually met 1,821. So Helen's pretty close there. Ryan, you're pretty close. So some good guesses there. So for the academic year, 1,821 over 209 workshops. Right. The next two questions depend how well you know eye opener. So the second question is, how many workshops do we currently offer to business schools? Again, to the nearest 5. Put it in the chat. 30, good guess. Alexander, 35. Yep. 17. What do people think? How many workshops do we currently offer to business schools? Any other guesses? Well, I think, Ryan, you're doing really well there because we actually have 48 that we can offer to business schools. We don't deliver all of them all of the time, but there are 48. If you look at our website, there's 48 that we can deliver for you. And the last question is, how many consultants can we draw on to deliver your workshops? 12, Alexander, 38, Danny, 5, Sean, 5 with a star, 50 plus, Helen, Sean Kwan, 85. Oh, it was 85, not star 5. I did think that was a bit weird, but especially as we've got 5 on today. Well, more than 5, Sean. So it's actually 70. We have 70 consultants. We have consultants based in the Far East, China, Singapore. We have people there. And we also now have a team down based in Dubai. So we are global and we can provide workshops to different parts of the world. So thank you for that. So as we've told you, you don't have to stay for all the sessions. Everybody who's registered will get the recording of what's happening today, but the longer you can stay, the better. So first of all, welcome everybody. It's really lovely to see people here from business schools we already partner with, business schools that we've worked with in the past but aren't currently. And so we would love to work with more business schools. So we hope this whets your appetite to do that. The purpose of today is to celebrate that we have been partnering with business schools for 20 years. That's not only degree programs, it's also executive education. And at London Business School, we work really closely with our L&D team for staff. And we've even done some things for faculty there as well, which is an interesting one. And so a little bit about Eye Opener is that we are grounded in positive psychology. So everything that we do comes from a positive basis. We use the term feed forward, not feedback, because it's future focused. Our workshops are highly experiential. That's why we would love you to turn on your cameras and join in what's going on today. We fill the knowing doing gap, which makes us slightly different to our competitors in that we bridge the gap between academia, so what they're being taught by the marvelous professors in all your schools, and we then build on that and get people to actually demonstrate behaviours or do whatever the workshop is based on. They're very practical. I think one thing that sets us apart at Eye Opener as well is we really understand your challenges. So quite a few of us have worked in business schools as well. So we understand the business school world. A key thing is we can work to your budget. So whatever your budget is, we can work for that. We're super responsive and we're good at scheduling challenges. So when things change, we're very flexible on the number of students, participants that you may have. We can bespoke to your need. You know, we have those 40 odd off-the-shelf workshops, but we can also bespoke them so they meet your need. And we have very diverse facilitators as well from different backgrounds, different parts of the world. And as I've said, now in China, Singapore, and also in Dubai. Today's sessions, the 5 sessions that we have today, I should do that, 5 sessions, are just a glimpse into some of the things that we do, how we interact with your students. And they cover basic generic communication skills. That's the topic we've gone for today. And actually, every workshop that we have covers communication skills to some degree or another because they are essential. And just so everybody knows, we will be recording. And that's, you will all get a copy of the recording. People who have registered who are not here will get a copy of the recording. And you may see some on YouTube going forward as well. So if you don't want your face shown, you need to let us know, but we will assume everybody's okay. So I did it on time. So it's a great pleasure to hand you over to our first facilitator of today, Nadia. Many of you will know Nadia, one of our long-standing, incredible facilitators, works with lots of business schools. And Nadia's session is on making stories sticky. Over to you, Nadia.
Thank you. Welcome, careers teams. We're here to support you create the inspiring leaders at your business schools of the future. So the first question, I want to make this interactive. You're going to take yourself off mute and you're going to put your hand up. What is the key ingredient that makes an inspiring leader? Put your hand up. See if there are any hands up. One ingredient that makes an inspiring leader. Otherwise, I recognize a few faces. I might, I've just seen a hand go up. Io, I've seen your hand go up. I'll go to you. And I'm then going to volunteer 2 voices that I can see. Alexander Cross and is it? It's from Cambridge Business School too. I recognize another face. First you, Io.
EQ, I would say, emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about EQ. I'm going to volunteer Alexander, if I may.
I would say clarity of direction and the ability to communicate that effectively.
Can I build on that ability to communicate?
You can, Nadia. Yeah.
What do we mean by ability to communicate?
So my first point was clarity of direction. So knowing direction of travel, but then being able to explain that to people in a way that is clear, will land clearly with them and is understandable.
Great, thank you. Something which is understandable, but takes us on a journey and a vision of somebody's. Ryan, I can see your hand up.
Thanks, Nadia. I would add courage and the ability to take the difficult decisions.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to that word courage. There's a lot to be unpacked there. You may have heard of Brené Brown. She talks about how vulnerable can you be, and the courage to share a bit of you is something key to storytelling. Because my section, the next up to 20 minutes is focusing on making stories stick. But I'm going to hear also the other words about emotional intelligence. We're driven by our emotions, making our emotions count, and but having the clarity, as Alexander said, of a clear message in the end. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce you to a psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, who talks about an ingredient that I'd like to share with you today. It's called inspired elevation. It's an ingredient that gets people to follow. And as leaders, we need people to follow your thoughts and clarity of ideas. Has anyone seen the Titanic? Put your hand up. I thought it'd be safe. So you'll remember there's a scene when the ship is sinking and there's the violinists playing. Do you all recall that? It's a very powerful moment. There's the first violinist playing, and he says, "Thank you, gentlemen, for playing with me." They pack up their bags, the ship is sinking. But the first violinist then gets up and holds his violin and continues to play. They look at him and they want to be like him. They pick up their violin and they carry on playing. That's what inspired elevation's about. There are lots of books out there on my vision, on how I did it. And people want to read how leaders get to where they are and understand their tricky points as well as their success points. So I want to encourage you all to tap into your own stories so that you can share, so others want to follow you. Inspired elevation. Harvard Business Review's come up with a book called The Authentic Leader. To Io's point, it's all about emotional intelligence. And in the actual opening of the book, it says, your story is not just your story. It's a story to share. Share as a leader. And that's what we're looking at today. So what I want to do now is first focus on a few minutes on the science, and so you understand the power of a good story. Then we're going to get you into breakouts to work on one tool, because in all our workshops, we always make it as interactive as possible, and we always set up some tools that are best practice globally, not just from one part of the world. Stories, for example, are global. So we're going to set you up first with a task, and then we'll share the outcomes after we come back from breakout rooms. So first of all, close your eyes, everyone. Close your eyes and listen to these words. Once upon a time. Okay, open your eyes now. Now I looked at some of your faces and I noticed something changed. Danny, I noticed your face from Bays. What happened to your face when I said those words?
Oh, I was just transported back to childhood.
Okay, I build on that. So what's going on in your body when you've transported to childhood?
Oh, it was a real kind of like, settling, a kind of settling down for the story.
Settling down. Our breathing has been sort of changed. Our body's more relaxed. Basically, oxytocin, which is a hormone, it's a love potion, comes from breast milk, is actually sort of sweeping through our body. We are decreasing our cortisol, and our body's ready for something. It's like a signpost, isn't it? Thank you, Danny. So stories have this effect on us, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm going to share a picture and ask you, who has the ultimate power, the elephant or the rider? Anyone like to volunteer? I'd like to have another voice in the room. There are a few people without their cameras on. Who can I go to? Oh, Rain. Welcome, Rain. Rain, who has the most power in the room?
I feel that the elephant seems to carry more weight in this picture, but I wonder if it's the person who sits above it to give it the direction. So I'm in a bit of two minds now. I think, yeah, I mean, my instinctive feeling is the elephant, but my logic thinking is the man sitting on it.
I'm going to go with your instinctive decision. So what happened is you first offered me the thought that the elephant must have the power. The neocortex was then doing some thinking and rational processing. The point is that our emotions do generally get us to think and then finally do. That's a fact. There's lots written. Jonathan Haidt has written a paper called Wired to be Inspired. We're wired by stories, not by data. Tell me honestly, put your hand up if you wake up in the morning and remember a number. Or put your hand up if you remember a good film, a conversation, a book you've read. Okay, thank you for your honesty. So we're wired by our emotions, and that's something that stories has this power that if we share something about us, we can then usually tap into someone else's emotional kind of wavelength, and then the thinking processing happens before we then come to any decision. So this is why stories work at business schools, and I'm with your students. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start introducing you to a tool. Before I come off my slides, Andrew Stanton, who wrote a writer from Toy Story, said that you always start a good story by its punchline. Know where you're going. You'll see this red thread in my picture here. In our workshop, we'll be talking about how you get from the beginning to the end and the callback, like the punchline, like Andrew Staunton is advising. But in this session, because it's only a snapshot, I want to focus on what I think the most powerful area of a story is. It's the middle, and it's called the vignette. Now I'm trying to come off Zoom, my slide deck.
Nadia, we can't see your slide deck at the moment.
Alexander, thank you for sharing that. I was wondering why I wasn't getting a reaction, but
Everyone else in the team's just letting you hang there, Nadia.
we know each other well enough that you can tell me. All right, so here is the thread that I was talking about, the red thread of a good story, and we will give you all sorts of creative techniques to create a 2-minute story in the workshops for your students. We will understand that Andrew Staunton says start with a punchline, and then you pull to the beginning, but always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in this session, I'm going to focus on the middle, which is the powerful part of a good story. A 2-minute story is the middle, which is up to a minute, that celebrates the drama. So, oops, I don't want to be on that either. So coming back, I'm going to now ask you to think about your timelines of your life. On your timeline, this is when you were born, this is you now, there will be moments in your life when you can tap in the resources here that you've had some kind of turning point, a challenge, a conflict, maybe a celebrity moment, you celebrate something, a success moment, and they will define the person you've become today. As leaders, we have many moments in our working world that we can call back and think about sharing amongst our teams. But actually, as a human, we have also stories that have set our values before we become the adult. So today, I'd like you to think about your timeline and remember the 7-year-old in you. Apparently, this is a stage when we start to make our own judgments, our own opinions, and our value set starts to happen. Think about the adolescence in you. Maybe there was a moment, maybe you failed an exam or something happened, or you moved house or country, or something changed the way you saw life. Think about the first job you had. So we tap into these moments, and I want you to think about one moment in particular in breakout room to share with a colleague. I'll share one of mine, so I'll give you an idea. This 7-year-old changed a value of mine that is still today. I call it the yellow dress moment. I'm standing in the entrance of a doorway. It's Sunday. My dad and my uncle are laughing. They're a bit drunk. There's smoke. My uncle smokes a pipe. Oh. My mum, German, called Gisela, beautiful yellow dress, comes in with 2 glasses of water. My uncle, as I observe, suddenly turns round and gesticulates. Heil Gisela! I'm there in the doorway and I see my mum literally freeze and I see her face harden. I see her face and then I see her with her 2 glasses of water throw water at my dad and my uncle. That's a moment I'll never forget, the yellow dress moment. I look at my mum and all I wanted to do was ask her why is she upset? What affected her? And I was really curious, but upset and annoyed. And I remember those emotions very well. And those emotions I've carried on to my adolescence and to my adulthood. I will stand up for an underdog. I will make sure everyone's included. I was upset my mum was not being protected that one moment. So when I was at school and I learnt German, a lot of my classmates teased her. I was angry with them. Today, I have 3 sons. If they come home from school or college and they say something ill of another person, I will come down on them with a ton of bricks. Don't you dare speak about someone like that. And today, even though they say stop being PC, they respect that that was one of my values. So I'll always talk about inclusion. And it's no surprise that in my social presence, I'm global comms because I believe in working with a global group. And that's why I support all business schools with a global reach. Everyone is included in my workshop. So that's one of my values. I want you to think about one of yours. We're going to put you into breakout rooms for a very short conversation of 4 minutes. You'll be in pairs. And for one moment, just have a conversation and share 2 minutes each on one value you may have had or some experience that may have marked your life that you see that something's come from it. Tap into the 7-year-old if you can, or the adolescent, or the person who's become the young adult. Ready to go? Yeah? You've got 4 minutes. Off you go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So I'm guessing you had a moment where you listened to each other. Anyone like to comment on their thoughts when they heard someone else's story? One comment.
Yeah, hearing someone else's story sparked a memory in me, which then meant I had my own story. So inspired a story in me that I'd forgotten about, but was actually really important.
Wow, and that has a ripple effect. Stories have this ripple effect, and it spreads out into social networks as well. You hear a good story, you share a good story, you want to move on and equally do the same thing. So I'm guessing you all had a powerful journey there. Anyone want to add something that they observed, whether they in sharing that story this time? How did it what was the experience like when you shared? Anyone like to share what it felt like when they shared and had the courage to share with somebody? Yes, Ryan.
You're on mute, Ryan.
Sorry. I found it quite energizing, actually, tapping into that energy from a story back in the past. So it was good sharing it.
Thank you, Ryan. And there you have it, encapsulated. Someone, a leader, Ryan, at careers in Cambridge, and you had their passion, that you had the energy, and you were your authentic self, which is actually key to what we've been doing in this one exercise. So you can see on my slide to wrap up my session is that by tapping into the authentic you, that's often going into your resources of a timeline, you find out what really motivates you, what your values are and what your strengths are. So I encourage you to carry on reflecting on those key turning points in your history and your timeline. Thank you very much. I'm hitting the time for me to say goodbye and I'm handing back to Lorraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. And so just a glimpse into what happens in our using stories to inspire, engage others workshop.